Recording in a minute. Well, Nick, welcome to our 6 simple questions session. Thank you for taking part as one of our newest members at Chester. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Great to be here. So I'm Nick. The company is Inspire Rewire, and we help leaders to navigate team dynamics. So what that means is it's through group coaching and manager coaching, and it's kind of twofold. On the one side, it's heavier subjects like conflict resolution or negativity in the team. And on the other is a bit lighter, so mindset development around resilience or emotional regulation or wellness. Before things get a little bit too complicated and more costly, really, it's kind of an intervention. So either to maintain what's already going well or dive in there when things are bubbling up a little bit. But yeah, personally, obviously you can hear by my accent, I'm from Yorkshire. So I've moved from Yorkshire to Dubai, lived in Dubai for 8 years, and now I'm in the hills of Wales. Fell in love with Llangollen, and I've been here 4 or 5 years. Have my little one. She's 5, and I've got a stepdaughter who's 14. So that's a little bit about me.
Right. And how did you become Inspire Rewire? That's what was the path that led you to that?
It's always a big one, isn't it? I'll keep it short. I followed in the footsteps of my mum, first of all, in terms of training. That's like my background. I'm in learning and development, and I started off quite young in that, really. And I quickly moved into helping troubled teenagers or teenagers with barriers to work or, learning. Loved that. And I just really got interested in the mindset. So I was at a bit of a crossroads. I ended up moving over to Dubai, and I didn't know whether to go down the social work route or the HR route, but there was nothing there at that time for that kind of work. So I moved into HR, and I did my CAPD over there. Back. No, there's a little voice there. Do we need?
Oh, right. So that was our doorbell going off. So. That I said something would happen like that, didn't I? So.
Fine.
This will stay in this. So I was trying to glare at our eldest son, saying, "Do not press the doorbell."
Well, my 5-year-old might run in any second, so it's fine. It's not. We know.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Where were we then?
So I was like, which direction to go down? So I went down that direction, and I became the learning centre manager for LG for Middle East and Africa. So again, it was like feeding into this interest of culture, people, nationalities, how people do things. It was a Korean culture, but within Dubai and across Middle East and Africa. So absolutely fascinating. I was there for a while, and then I moved into group head of learning and development for a big company. And then I burnt out. So I was doing my master's there. I was flying back and forward for the workshops in the UK. That was back when they was doing loads of exams. I had to pay for an invigilator to sit with me for 30 exams in Dubai. And I didn't have a partner there at the time. So it was very stressful, but I didn't realize it. And this was building along the years, and I burnt out, really. And I retrained at that point. So when I looked at what helped me, I then looked into it for myself. So I trained in hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming, yoga. I did a lot of that in India. So I transitioned through India back to the UK, set up my business then. And I did a lot of one-to-ones for the first few years, helping people with the same things that I'd gone through. And then I quickly got into retreats. So I've done 80 retreats now, including mini retreats. So we do like monthly mini retreats. And then I felt like I needed a big break from corporate. I just felt like it was all just a lot, and I needed to look at myself, really, how I managed my own emotional regulation and my action-orientated mindset. I just needed to work on myself for a bit. But in the last sort of few years, I navigated back towards companies and corporate just before the pandemic. And it turned out to be a really good choice, because obviously there was a lot of call for emotional support, stress management, change management, resilience, and all these kind of stuff. So I started off doing loads of webinars, and then there was one topic that I think is what brought me to doing this conflict resolution now, which was anger. And I talked a lot about, you know, not suppressing the anger and why people need to be heard and what's really going on. And then a company picked up on that and said, we've got a team that is pretty angry. Can you come in and do something with them? And, you know, at first I thought, wow, that's it's a pretty intense situation to walk into. People have put grievances against each other, the manager, and eventually I came up with this formula that seemed to work really well. And since then, I've just gone to so many different teams, different types of teams. And it just, I think what it is I go in there with the mentality of, I'm not telling you what to do and I'm not telling you that you're wrong, but we need to hear everything first to understand what's going on.
And then it can be a simple misunderstanding that when it's discussed, it can be like, you know, oh, that wasn't as bad as we thought it was, you know, isn't it? Yeah,
because it's really hard for managers as well, you know, when you've got a team, and I've been there as well, that are sort of quite challenging. It's quite easy to not face it straight on. So when they realise that actually a lot of other people have got so much residue from the post-pandemic as well. So now it's a case of, I used to have these two separate worlds of, you know, the corporate side of me and then this well-being side of me. And now it feels like finally these two things have come together, and it just feels like I'm in my flow at the moment. So I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Brilliant. And well, you know, at the Business Network, we liked, you know, we do say people by people, so we'd like to know a little bit more about you. What keeps you busy in your downtime, apart from a 5-year-old?
I know, and it's so, you know what, and it's so important to have that downtime, and it's something that I constantly talk about, you know, with the parents, not just mum, parents. Anyone who's got a responsibility, really, because it's not just children, is it? It's that me time. I actually did a whole festival called Me Time Festival in Chester last year, and it's I do a lot of stuff by myself. I love my time by myself. I love isolation. I love quiet time, but I love collaborating and getting to know people too. So I would say it's a lot of walking in the hills. I'm in the best place to do that.
Yes.
I do a lot of sleeping. I do what I train. So I do my yoga and my meditation. Not every day, you know. I'm still watch a load of rubbish on Netflix. I'll still have my wine, but it is that balance, you know. But you'll find me in a coffee shop. So sometimes a buzz vibe. I like people around me for inspiration. And then other times, I don't know whether you've been here, but Gladstone's Library in Harden.
No, I haven't. No.
That one, it's a silent library. It's very, very old. And it's got all these beautiful books around you and individual desks. And you can just work there in silence. And you can stay overnight there as well. So I often take myself up for 1 or 2 nights, you know, in a yurt or at Gladstone's or some random place, and just have a little bit of time for myself, because I'm quite a deep thinker. And study as well. I'm going back to uni in October again for the 3rd time. So I'm doing a psychology masters this year. So I'm excited about that. Finally feel I've got a bit of energy to do that. And anything personal development. But I think one thing I really enjoy is as much as the downtime and the quiet time and the time by myself is meeting like-minded people and inspiring each other. I really get a lot of that as well.
Yeah, super. Right. So the next question is, do you listen to any podcasts that you can recommend?
So I've dabbled with podcasts. I think I'm more because I'm a book person. I'm a bit more of an audible when it comes to listening to things. And like, if I was to recommend one of them, I would say, have you heard, I'm sure you've heard of Mel Robbins. Have you heard of Mel Robbins? Not that many people.
No, I haven't. No.
She's in my industry, she's known because she talks a lot about how to achieve your goals and how to get rid of the self-sabotage and things. And she's got a really good one on Audible called Take Control of Your Life. And she focuses on the fact that we're not happy when we're not in control, and that we overthink control. And actually, she talks about Lego blocks to building your to get into your goals, because otherwise it becomes so overwhelming. And she, in that particular Audible, because it's only on Audible you can get it,
Right.
she's got, I think, 4 different coachees, so you're listening to her coaching them that are very similar to yourself. Like, I recognize myself in that person, and so you're getting the aha moments, and then she breaks it down afterwards, so it's really, really practical and helpful. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah. Right. And you've said you're a book person, so the next question is there a book you can recommend?
Oh, it's so hard.
Oh, there's several.
I will give you one, but I think what's an interesting point that's just come to my mind here is when I used to overwhelm myself, when I used to have that overdoing kind of mentality, I'd have 5 or 6 books on the go, and it's actually one of my trigger points now. If I creep up to having 5 or 6 books on the go, it's like red flag, you're overwhelming yourself. So I try to just stick on one book at a time now. So the book that I would recommend, amongst many, would be Boundary Boss by Terry Cole.
Right.
It's really good. I mean, she just talks about, because it's one of the biggest things I had to learn through my burnout, was things like saying no and speaking up for yourself and these kind of things. So again, real examples, real dialogue that you can hear of how you would phrase something if you're not sure. So that's a good one.
Yeah. Great. And the final question is, and this came out of lockdown, basically. We were trying to inspire everybody, you know. So any words of wisdom?
Oh, it's again, it's just so many, isn't there? And I'm not saying I've got lots of words of wisdom. I'm just, because I share a lot of these things, it's like, oh, which one to pick? I think I'll probably link it to the 3 things that I mentioned about the boundary boss and Mel Robbins' goals. It's about goals, because I think all of us in this business world have these massive goals, and sometimes we either procrastinate because we set them too big and it feels overwhelming, or we start and then we fail and then we beat ourselves up for failing instead of actually approaching things differently. So whether it's health, weight, or your business goals, is doing what Mel Robbins says in terms of Lego blocks instead of big things. Now, I've got something to show you here for this, because if you can see there's a person, it's a bit blurred.
Yes.
Steps. And what that says to me is, these are my coaching cards, they're amazing, all these different images to give you inspiration. He's looking down at his feet there, and it's twofold for me. Is this, when you've got a big goal, it's great to have these big visions, so it's not about thinking small, but it's getting the balance between looking ahead and also looking where you're going, and not staying too much in the looking down and not staying too much in the looking forward, because you can feel it's too big, or you're not looking to the future. So it's trying to get that balance right, living in the now, not thinking too much about the future, but coming back and forth, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Well, Nick, thank you so much for taking part in our 6 simple questions. This is we've got a database of a host of members of You've Seen, so you'll be on our YouTube channel very shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for